Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to run this, apparently that workstation is down.
Okay.
So you just have to tell me when you want to slide.
That's not, yeah, there's only 6 slides, so, yeah. Not trying to overwhelm them with, 30 slides. That's really frustrating. I grabbed everything at my computer, just put it in the bag. That wasn't.
Our city serves at that. 2.5 years. And that won't be back for. This is bad news. All of them.
That seems that must like censor hinder.
Well, yeah, I'm sure we'll buy it. Bidding system we can get into to that based. Our outlook we can get into, but really very limited because we're not supposed to leave stuff on our personal desktop.
Yeah.
So you dump it on there, secure it.
Right.
But it's a whole bunch of insignificant things that align. There's. It's been fun. Got me all up. People's pub. That's something else. So Travis is his belly's gonna be grumbling over there and he's gonna wanna cut this short.
Terry, are you presenting on the climate or?
Yeah, they've seen it before. I'm just gonna kind of let them know that there was updates and what those were, and they should have seen them all, and it should be close to being completed, I think.
You saw my comment
on
the climate, or our comments on the climate, which was just kind of like throughout all the chapter whenever it says refer to Chevy's natural system assets and take it out because
yeah, we may need to leave this open because I'm not sure this rendition had that.
That's good.
Oh.
We hope so. Noticed on the original letter.
So Curtis was just saying they had sent an email regarding the climate element that there was certain referrals made. Did I pass that on to you?
Yeah, well,
did we get rid of those or did they?
Yeah, that's one thing I noticed. You told me about that.
So we really can't close this out unless we discuss specific items that are going to be removed. But
yeah,
so we probably can't close it out yet.
we could talk about removing, because like all it is like this right here.
Just that one.
Well, there's two that pretty much the same thing. Yeah. Because you pretty much together. That's referring to
You committed to that meeting.
unless we know we could, if we want to see through it, connect it to chapters, but that take us longer.
Yeah, all it's needed is just whatever it says refer to, just remove that.
Yeah,
Refer to
like that
anything
whole
to say.
little section right there is now. 12. Well, I have a couple on.
Once we burn this, yeah, we'll have that.
Raise the question.
And that's the one that you just kind of wrapped all that up into your stuff anyway, right? So.
Yeah, it's like whatever things that it's gonna be. Cause there are policies that the climate element is handling that were already in the old chapter.
Yeah.
Anything else that's not already being handled by the climate element, where it's gonna move to the use part.
You don't want to bouncing around too much.
Yes. Also, just to streamline everything, the climate element's already the big chapter anyways, so.
Yeah.
So need to build on it.
Hey, there he is again.
Good evening, Mr. Moore.
How are you?
Sue, long time no see.
No kidding. Let me see, where's my handyman list? See what I can hand up.
Some days it's just better to do this when you walk by her.
Oh,
He
it's
goes
not,
through
it's,
houses like this.
it's not. It's. Eastern roast. It's like, I got personal maintenance. But, you know, we're just trying to take care of things.
And the bugs work out.
How are you? Good. Boy, somebody is short, whoever's sitting in this chair.
Wasn't
Me
me.
get my knees underneath it. Good job, at the, dedication.
Oh, likewise.
I thought you did a great job. Glad to see it.
But it threw a hand, obviously I was gonna really push our structural mover and he like, where'd he go? He was right here.
Yeah. Oh, that was amazing that they could do that all in one piece. It was even more amazing watching it.
That it got there in one piece and yes.
Mr. Abelman, how are you? So
Not
good,
too bad.
so good to see you.
See you.
How was your vacation?
It was good. Yeah.
You needed it after what's happened since the first of the year.
Some things going on.
Just a couple.
Just a couple. Yeah, I spent it with my 2.5-year-old granddaughter. That was,
yay.
I need to get home and rest now. She has a lot of energy. Fun.
I watch my 4-year-old grandson every Thursday and then pick up his older sister at school. And it's a good thing I don't work on Fridays.
You asked your question. How in the world did you raise? I mean, must have been that younger thing. I'm exhausted. 3 or 4 hours, I'm done.
I hear you.
Ooh.
You know, it just tells me it's a good thing we have kids when we're younger.
I wish I would have got that memo.
Yeah. I think I had my first one, I was 24, 25.
28, mine.
Third one's kind of, I'm 40 and here comes the third one, so I don't know. I don't have the energy.
I can
The
understand
problem,
that.
there is a problem.
It's not so much the energy at this point, it's the embarrassment of having a walker at their graduation.
Yeah.
Good evening, Vince.
You get solar with your back.
What's that?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to, yeah.
I did not.
I'm gonna get in
Um,
2 weeks.
I had too many
One of them
things
just-
going
But
on
one of them, even camels. I mean, I'm one
with Dan
department head.
on Saturday.
Have a pretty full agenda, but. So it's kind
Helped set up our booth for
of,
the,
the city manager's a little different, but it's somewhat.
then I always volunteer,
He has that.
I get some of the missionaries to volunteer.
Really,
Usually set up art
it's kind of different. But it's
Oh,
for the kids. We do that, and then we just walk around. Yeah. People need help, so. That in the morning, I was home shower, said, "Buddy, it's for grandson."
yeah.
But it's the sun for 2.5 hours. You know, and that, so take in the sunscreen, they said. Got a little toasty on the top. And then came by and
Well, this was one of those where, I finally opened the packet today. Back in maybe like a month.
well,
It's actually.
I go out with you.
Most of it
Burger, because I'm
regards
so
to-
craving, but like,
Yeah.
I gotta go home and get.
That's true.
so that's a good thing. Unless you get brand new packet.
Yeah.
And still kind of.
Things in my head. See? Presentation. Expect a ton of feedback.
No, we're leaving tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Good, how are you doing?
Glad you could make it. How's, that's all.
Yeah, how are you?
Man, good.
Well,
Glad to hear that.
I'm cheesy.
Whenever you test, it would only be 6 feet.
Well, same team anyway.
yes.
So in the May.
It's in different projects. Just. On that.
Yeah, I think it's an excuse not to do all the
It's kind of way I keep it.
punch list type stuff and stuff all. I don't have to concentrate on that. I don't look back to.
You know, but it's just, you got, I just joke about that, but it's just, you have to sit on the other side of it.
How about you? Any vacations?
You guys ready? Ready?
I'm ready.
It is 6 o'clock. The May 11th Cheney Planning Commission meeting is called to order. We will start with citizen participation. We have 5 commissioners present, which is a majority. And I don't think we have any online, but anyways, we'll go ahead with citizen participation if there is any in the audience or online. Not seeing or hearing any. We will move on to, minutes have been postponed. I guess we'll move on to item number 4, public hearing. We'll start with 2026-04, and I assume we'll get a staff presentation.
I'm gonna refer this presentation to our planning consultants, Nexus Planning, and they'll be doing the housing element and the land use, and then I'll follow up with the climate.
Great.
May start when you're ready.
Yes, so, yeah, I'm with Nexus Planning Services. My name's Curtis. Waiting for Sue to bring up the presentation, but. This
Can
is
you
just gonna
do
be a quick
me
overview. essentially.
Sorry to interrupt you. Can you do me
Yeah.
a favor?
Yeah.
I rototilled one of my hearing aids last week.
Okay,
So and it happens to be the right one that controls the left one, so I have no hearing aids.
okay,
So if everybody could elevate a little bit, I would greatly appreciate it. I don't get my new ones until Wednesday morning. So it would be very helpful.
okay.
Thank you.
I will, yeah.
Building.
I couldn't find it.
Oh, you just want to put it up here, or? He didn't hear me.
Okay, is that? Do I know that it's good? Looks like it's good. Okay. Okay, perfect. Sure. Okay, so yes,
That's better. Thank you.
good, yes. So I'm gonna present, I have this weird post here. I'm gonna present on the both, I'm not gonna, it's not a presentation per element, it's just a general discussion on both the land use and the housing. They both kind of interact with each other and communicate with each other. So just to start, Sue, if you wanted to go when you are ready. So yeah, next slide. So yeah, this is just going to be a quick, just a quick overview of the comp plan work so far. I'm sure everyone here, or most people here, are familiar with the comp plan and the schedule and what goes into it. But we'll go through that, and then the focus on the discussion will be obviously housing and land use. I'll include what the land use map that we're proposing in the land use chapter will look like. Just for another refresher, it's obviously in the drafts, and then some general vision and housing allocation statements and data that we can look at, and then a discussion on with some just general bullet points that we can kind of start communicating if needed, and they'll just be on the screen, and then that's the time that you can ask me any questions like fully. So yeah, go ahead, next slide. So as you know, the comprehensive plan includes some mandatory elements and then a newly required mandatory element and then some optional ones. For the Cheney 2026 comprehensive plan, we have chosen obviously to do the mandatory ones, but then streamlining the other comp plan elements that included like technology and information, arts and culture, and natural assets and sustainability into different elements, into different optional and mandatory elements. So the economic development plan and the parks and recreation plan has gotten significantly boosted with more goals and policies that relate to also arts and culture and technology. And same thing, the climate change that's now newly required will include a lot of the same policies that were in the natural assets and sustainability element from the 2017 comp plan. So today, and I just boxed it out, we're going to be talking about land use and housing on my end, and then Terry will give a brief presentation on climate change and resiliency, which was done by the county and not Nexus Planning Services. So go ahead, next slide. Just as a quick process of how we're kind of drafting this, the Growth Management Act of compliance is the main priority of making sure that Cheney is not going to have any red flags that pop up where Compass is going to be like, wait, that's not meeting what we need here. And then also comparing that, or rather filtering that from that to the future vision dictated by our public engagement and our community input, which have included, going to Mayfest, other and tabling at other community events. We had 2 open houses and then 1 workshop with the Planning Commission and the City Council back in 2024 or early 2025 actually. And then we had a survey. We've had multiple surveys, and so we took that vision and sort of what we can feel or what we can tell the community wanted, compared that to what the GMA requires, and then tried to find a balance into where to meet each of them so that it's not weighing one or the other more.
And then obviously we take that, we come to you, planning commission, and then city council first or second. And we'll get any feedback, address any comments, hear anything that you feel is something that we should focus on more, or something that we should take out, or something that we should readjust, whatever it is. And then this is on Nexus Planning Services, the left three. The city will then be tasked with finding a path forward to reaching adoption and, updating the development regulations. So that could be zoning, it could be design standards, it could be land use, fee schedules. There are stated requirements that are asked by the state right now to have passed and adopted by the end of 2026. We are not going to be part of that, but the city will. We will provide a tech memo that can allow the city some general guidance to get there. But that's all. The final comprehensive plan adoption and the development regulations are the final step at the end of the year for this whole process. Next slide, please. So yeah, the housing allocation, this is related to the housing element. The housing allocation was passed, or sorry, HB 1220 was passed in 2021. And it required local governments to plan for and accommodate housing affordability to all income levels. And based on the current zoning for Cheney and what is found in the land capacity analysis, it does meet allocated numbers. There are no deficits, and I will talk about there's a quote unquote deficit in one of the later slides. But as far as income bands from 0 to 30, AMI all the way down to 120% AMI plus, Cheney is good. Cheney has no deficits, which is good. That means that whatever goals and policies are going to have to be taken are just merely to achieve the vision that the comp plan states. And that's something that Cheney can choose if they want to see a different vision or maybe kind of tweak the vision. That's totally fine. There's nothing that is requiring them to Cheney to make any kind of more drastic steps. Next slide, please. So yeah, these are the numbers. As you can see, barely pipping over on the 0 to 30 non-permanent supportive housing, and then permanent supportive housing, with 7 surplus on the permanent non-permanent supportive housing, and then 2 on the permanent supportive housing. And so all good there. The deficit that I call out is the 91 beds that are required for the temporary emergency housing. And those are not calculated in this ACA table or LCA table, but they're essentially, it's just fulfilled by not prohibiting emergency housing to be used where hotels and motels are allowed in whatever zone. And then essentially you look at what is the land capacity for developable land. And so long as your developable land lots that are zoned to allow for motels and hotels is enough to provide 91 beds, then that requirement is met, and Cheney has met that. So Cheney has no housing allocation issues, which opens up for the next slide, that is our land use vision. And this is, like I said, based on community engagement and then engagement with city staff and elected officials. But it's really just going to be minor changes. As you can see in the south along 904, removing some of the unused industrial land and having mixed use instead. And it's that purple with the yellow outline, and then the red at the very top. See if I don't have a pointer or anything, but it's at the very top, the very tippy top triangle up there was asked at a previous planning commission meeting to include that as a general commercial, which right now I believe it is industrial.
Is that off Normal Park Road?
I think so. Yeah. And that was simply a city ask. And so we wanted to have it proposed here so that we can discuss it again and see if that was something that should remain or if we're thinking about something else. And as again, another city ask was to show proposed potential UGA amendment areas. So that includes the 20 acres right above that, basically right where 904 comes down into Cheney. There's those two little boxes at the top, and then right above 50-acre park, there's the other two pieces of property, and those are the pending proposed UGA amendment areas to do a swap from the current UGA, which is down southeast, to those in the northwest.
You talked about mixed use development and industrial. I think you're referring down actually in the bottom left.
That's what, yeah, that I might have misspoke. So no, so yeah, there is the bottom left, and then there's that little triangle for the, which is commercial. But yeah, I apologize. You see that little red triangle at the top, basically where the railroads come down, like this from 904. But yes, you are correct. The bottom, like by Salnave, is where the proposed mixed use changes would be. Yeah, and in general, these are just very simple land use changes. The actual policy changes and the actual vision will be met through zoning changes. So code amendments, essentially, development regulation amendments. And that could be, in general, is really just opening up mixed use development into general commercial, which is already stated as a goal in the land use, the purple from the red for the Cheney's, downtown core into the purple along 904. That is all supposed to be mixed use, but right now general commercial is its zone, and general commercial does not allow for mixed use. So to meet a vision, which would be to change the development regulations on general commercial to allow for mixed use. And then that would open up more space in the commercial centers of the city for more smaller, affordable housing. The other option is to upzone some of the high density multifamily and just general multifamily to allow for more units per acre. And again, this is simply just options, ideas to debate through the adoption process, because there is no requirement that these need to get done to meet. This is just, we wrote the policies in the land use and the housing chapter to meet these goals, but this is not by any means a requirement. This is purely based on community feedback, as stated before. Next slide. And this is kind of where, if anybody has any questions or has anything that they want to bring up, I'm happy to answer questions, but these are just some brief discussion items. Basically, is the capacity in the housing capacity section, does that make sense? Do you have any questions? Do you think it could be presented differently? Second being, are there any goals and policies in the land use or housing that you think should be reworded, revised, or removed or combined? And then are there any policies that could be strengthened that you think we're sort of bearing the lead on that maybe are more important that we should focus on?
So in your housing element.
Yeah.
Portion, the survey that you did of the Cheney community.
Yeah.
Can you tell me how many responses we got back on that?
It's been a long time since I've looked at the full count. But if I remember correctly, it was in the 394 range, like 395, 394. And the people that we subcontracted with to help us on that found that it was statistically significant, given the demographic of who responded, that there was a wide enough range of people within that response group that represented, a good majority, or at least a statistically significant majority of the community of Cheney.
On the capacity,
Mhm.
In the chart, there's the higher income level, which was served by the low density. I was curious on the numbers, that's all the R1 zone.
Yeah, R1, yeah.
Are the numbers accounting for ADUs on those properties as well, or is
No.
it just strictly just a single family home?
Strictly just whatever the primary use is. Yeah. And the LCA, as far as what, because the LCA was done by another contractor in 2024, and then updated later in 2025. And back then, the guidance did not call for ADUs to be accounted for in, doing any kind of capacity analysis.
I'm also, and you probably have told us this before, but I don't remember.
All good.
On page 8 of 22,
Yes.
what is the allocated housing need? What does that stand for?
Let me double check that so the allocated housing need is from the county. When Spokane County did their LCA, they have obviously their jurisdiction. They'll look at what they need for their jurisdiction, and then from there we'll allocate to whatever jurisdictions within the county could support that kind of housing. And so that's a top level decision from PTAC, which is the Planning Technical Advisory Committee that the county operates and county facilitates, that everyone decided, okay, this is our numbers, this will be your numbers. We agree on these numbers. These ones are too high, these ones are too low. And these are the numbers that were agreed on for City of Cheney. Yes.
So I guess on the second bullet point there, you're asking specifically about this part, the actual.
Yeah. So in the goals and policy section,
itself.
yeah, and that's it goes for both housing and land use.
I've got markups, but I guess I'll kind of just say overall, this was, just like personal opinion. So it was kind of a heavy packet that we received in preparation on this.
Understood.
I'm guessing probably overall it'd probably benefit the entire commission if we were able to basically take more time to evaluate it and then follow up at a next meeting with those comments, or even if there's a way for us to pass this forward to staff so that help facilitate going through that rather than line by line. And I had one of these that I had the chance to go through and that. And the other two.
Yeah, it's not the intention to have this as button it up with a bow and say we're done. This is for input to Nexus on how to proceed. And then we'll keep the public hearing open and we will continue to.
We'll continue until next month.
I'm sorry.
So you're recommending that we continue until next month?
So, but this is very valuable input at this point. So we kind of knew it was a heavy lift. Sorry. Exactly. So we do need to keep this moving forward because if we let this get away from us, it's going to get ugly really fast. So, and then I'll talk about the climate portion with regard to that too.
Yeah. So I just want to say to your point, if you have markups and you have whatever edits, you can just either scan it, or if you want to convert them to something digital or mail it to, give it to Terry and then I can run back or whatever it's going to be. Yeah, we're happy to help put any kind of edits through into another draft. But want to make sure that
Great just to have that additional time.
100%. Yeah.
Vince?
Commissioner, if I may, just a couple questions, I guess. So I think on your first slide, you alluded to one of the required elements is the land quality analysis. Is that correct?
It wouldn't be the land quality analysis. It would be the required element would be land use or housing or yeah. It's not the land quantity analysis was done in 2024 by another firm.
So that's not, you're saying that's not a required component?
It's a required component of the housing. So yes, it is a required component of the housing element to ensure that basically to help anybody that's writing the housing element, to inform them on what is available to be built on, or to what's, is there any kind of underutilized portion that is just that, we could target? Is there a lot of vacancy that we can target? Is there maybe more developable areas that we can target? It just, yeah, it's meant to be an informational point, and also the sort of the show your work part. when we submit and adopt, or not we, but when the city adopts the comprehensive plan.
So that was the foundational basis to go across the board saying we don't have any deficits within the city for housing types. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yes, yeah. So once you get the quantity of capacity, you then do you take what is currently allowed, so whatever the zoning is, the allowable units per acre, and then you just do the math. What is your net buildable? What's your net available capacity? You divide that by the allowable units, and that's your answer.
I guess the one thing I'm struggling with is that our land quality analysis says we don't have any deficits across the board.
Yeah.
We're showing UGA amendments pending. Are those?
Not pending. Pending is maybe the wrong word. It's been asked by the city to show it just so it's on the board, and so it's like it's there on the record to have a potential UGA swap.
So this is my question. Be clear.
Yeah.
Is it part of this comp plan process or is it independent thereof?
Independent. Yeah. The UGA swap is going to be independent because the county ultimately has jurisdiction over that. And the county has already stated that they are not going to take any UGA swaps until after this 2026 comprehensive plan is done.
And I just want to revert back to land quality analysis. I thought the premise of doing the land quality analysis was to determine the needs.
Yeah.
And if we're saying in the land quality analysis, within the city limits, we have enough capacity across the board for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
Why are we looking to do spot zones in a UGA? That's, I'm struggling figuring that out.
Yeah, it was not a Nexus choice or even a community choice. It was a city choice that city staff informed us that they would like to see that. And so we put it on there.
Well, I appreciate your honesty and it's,
Yeah.
we'll hear from the city as to
Well,
why.
so those two areas, we have owners of those properties that show an interest in expanding the UGA, and it's more of a placeholder so that the county can kind of see what the intention or the desire to expand out that way in hopes of, they don't like the term swap, but to reallocate our UGA that's to the south, share some of that up to the north. It's a placeholder just to kind of start a discussion in the future. Nothing formal at this point. We just have interested individuals that would like to, they're interested in developing. So they kind of want, let's talk. And that's just really is where it's at.
I get that, and as long as development pays for development, that makes sense, but we've also talked about in Public Works Subcommittee quite regularly, urban reserve. And I guess I didn't see that at all, or that discussion. It was more, again, going back to your map, this is pending. So I'm just asking, what's going on?
Yeah, pending is probably a little stronger than it is just, what would be a better word?
Proposed,
or
maybe, or-
possible future.
Yeah.
It's really just a placeholder at this point
I guess, and not
to show that there's interest.
that's fair, but to not to overly complicate this, I think you both said it's independent of the comp plan process. This, and again, I think there has been some interest in an urban reserve concept, which is a little bit different than I think this UGA placement. It would give the city opportunity where the opportunity merits itself for development in an urban reserve area. So, again, I've said this several times at council, I'd hate to see little spot zones cloud this process. This comp plan is for the city for the next 20 years to act as a blueprint, not to further a little spot zone.
Yeah. Well, those areas seem to be a natural growth area. And the infrastructure is kind of off that direction anyway. And seemed logical, but I'm a huge advocate of don't go urban sprawl because you can, or you just densify as much as you can. Keep it central, and unless you need to grow. So
I think the infrastructure is there. Obviously, I think by Murphy or off Murphy Road, I think that makes sense. It's a larger piece. But again, if that could be potentially in an urban reserve, that makes sense to me.
Sure.
And I think to your point, just to say, certainly the situation that Cheney is in with the UGA is a tough one because most of the current UGA is mostly wetlands and already in a tough spot where it's across the tracks. You got to deal with that part of it, plus the wetlands. It's not in a great position. So considering going forward, having urban reserve sounds like a great idea.
I understand the constraints going south too, but again, going back to land quality analysis, we have the capacity with
You're right.
current limits.
You're right.
And premise that the land quality analysis tried to emphasize is infill and
Mhm.
rebuilding some of these older structures. And I think we need to be promoting that.
And certainly I don't know if you got a copy of the housing or land use element, but the goals and policies do promote that, and that is the focus of that vision going forward. No doubt.
Thank you.
Of course.
I have another question on page 14 of 22 under displacement. It says the community must address racially disparate impacts, exclusion, and displacement risks in housing.
Yeah.
Is that just a requirement, or do we have a deficiency there?
No, it's a requirement to have it be considered. So in other jurisdictions that we've worked with, the thing that meets it is just showing our work that we have considered that there are potentials for policies to create racially disparate impacts or create more displacement of working class folks. It is not it's not an analysis to show that Cheney does have racially disparate impacts or it does have overly potent policies that might displace folks. It's just we have to show that we consider that and show our work on that.
So I'm an attorney, so words matter.
For sure.
To me, that is misleading. And so I would like the language to be changed in there to say, as part of this program, the community must address it. Because when I first read that, what I read was that we have some deficiencies there.
I see.
And so I came in today saying, okay, what are our deficiencies?
Sure.
I want to know what those deficiencies are.
Yeah.
And so I would really like to, make sure that the document is understandable. If I don't understand it, I'm sure anybody else that picks it up isn't going to know, is this part of the requirement or is this a problem we have here in Cheney?
Yeah.
Because I'm very much in, we need to make sure that we're providing housing, for everybody that wants to reside in Cheney. And I don't care what their socioeconomic status is.
Absolutely.
If they want to live here, we need to try to find, the opportunities to be able to provide them those opportunities. So.
Agreed.
Sorry, I'm going to pick at language all the time because,
Okay.
that's what I've been doing for 40 years.
Yeah.
When we go through the document, if you could, kind of make sure that it's not, it's leading to the conclusion that as part of this, we have to consider this.
Yeah.
Versus.
This is something to be addressed.
Yeah, it's something that we have to address because it's a deficiency we have here in the city.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to say, there is a goal and policy, and I'm trying to remember the exact page it's on. 20 of 22. It describes, we have the analysis part of it is the beginning, and then it goes to the goals and policies and how we're meeting the analysis or what the analysis informed as far as getting to the goals and policies. And goal H4 describes what the actual, nuts and bolts of meeting or addressing racially disparate impacts means. And it definitely does not say that Cheney has this, so you must adopt this. It's more just, throughout the next 20 years, consider that where a potential policy change could, have an impact, or identify if there's a notice that, oh, this is actually leading to this outcome, identify it, eliminate it, figure out a way to address it. Nothing that is directly calling out something right now. So you are correct that should be very clear in the analysis portion as well.
Thank you.
Yes.
And the analysis portion will live within the comprehensive plan?
Yeah, it's all one. Yes, it's all one chapter.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm just gonna echo, just in general, I think there's a lot of work to be done in terms of cleanup and the way that things are raised. And so I mean, I know we talked to this with the climate element. We found a lot of things that were just, I don't know, it felt more like a 50% draft rather than a 90% draft.
Okay.
And so I think having that exercise gone through to make sure it's cleaned up will certainly help us in terms of not, just suddenly nitpicking on that, bad language. It's not even the intention of what was being put together. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And if I could, the ask that we've had with other jurisdictions that we've had previously at these planning commission meetings is, if you could mark it up and then send it to us, because it's much easier to know exactly what the comments are and what exactly the change could be, rather than, continuing to try to guess and then having to come back and forth and back and forth. We would love to, if you just want to mark it up, please, and then we can take a look and incorporate the changes. And I'm sure that would help Terry as well.
On two of the policies, I just had a note about explain. Like I was just wanted an explanation better so I could understand before whether or not I had any comments. So one of them was H 2.9.
Okay.
And I think on this one, I particularly just kind of found interesting. So I was wondering what that would look like in practice.
So in practice, what that has been throughout the state has been you have a let's say a development, a PUD that goes in, and it's going to include, however many units, that some of those units be marked off to include a certain percentage of them being controlled at whatever the AMI is. So if it's low to moderate, then that would be 50 to 80% of whatever the AMI is. And obviously it could go up, it could go down depending on the global economy, but whatever that is marked at, that those would remain controlled rent at 50 to 80% AMI. And it's just a portion of whatever is the greater development.
So that with that, I mean, in that concept, is it where properties are looking for a rezone that increases their capacity beyond what would normally be allowed, or just any increase in general?
It depends on what the city sees, but it would generally, it is just saying that it has to be, that if you're going to allow for these many units per acre, it should be this many being controlled.
Jump in on this.
Please, yeah.
So this is just one suggested policy. There's a number of different ways you can incentivize this. Certainly the inclusionary zoning, where you have to have a certain percentage and that's maintained, is one way to do it. There are other ways to do it. You could provide density bonuses as an example, where if you maintain a certain percentage of them as affordable, that you're allowed to do additional density in a zone. There's also multifamily tax exemptions as another strategy for encouraging a certain percentage of housing units be maintained at that 80% AMI. So there's a variety. This is just suggesting an example of one of the policies that you might look at in the future. Excuse me.
Yeah, and just to make it, I don't know, to hammer home the point, the comprehensive plan is not regulatory. It is a guide. So whatever, it does have some level of regulation that you can't go way out of left field on policies that you recommend, but this document is not it's recommending policies rather than dictating policies. So if you adopt a comprehensive plan, it doesn't necessarily mean that your zoning code is all of a sudden changed to meet it. So this is just, if you say you're Terry and you're trying to figure out a new code amendment to do, you would look through the comprehensive plan and see, well, is there any ideas from the comprehensive plan that I could use to update this code, or, add a little, detail in the code amendment? Does that make sense?
Yeah, in general, I have a hard time, I don't know, my attorney friend on the side of me would maybe know better than I do, but in terms of how much the comprehensive plan translates into actual zoning regulation, I recognize that it's setting a vision, but then ultimately, under challenges that suddenly someone can point to it and say, no, you've outlined, this is what you were gonna do. Why are you not doing that? And could be something potentially the city has to defend against. So I think when I look at it, I just look at it with a little more seriousness than just a general guide. Recognizing that those situations can occur.
Right. Yeah. And that's why, just to add on to Lisa's point that, there are variations and ranges of what can be adopted that can meet certain policies still. So I hear you saying that, and I agree. for sure.
If I may, the controlling words here are that you're going to explore opportunities for programmatic. I'm on the wrong one, but that you're exploring opportunities. That you're going to consider policies related to this.
No, we might be looking at two different ones, but sorry, Joe.
This one, 2.9.
So as part of any rezone that increases residential capacity, require a portion of the units to be affordable through tools such as, so again, variety of different tools. One is mentioned, but there's a variety of different. And again, in this particular case, what it's suggesting is if you're going to increase residential capacity, easy way to do that again is density bonuses. But if you want to, if somebody wants to argue that they need more capacity in order to make it affordable, then you need to put your money where your mouth is and actually make it more affordable.
I don't want to beat this one to death. I did just also when you referred to controls, I'm just still trying to understand the whole concept. So how would that control look like? Like if you had that where they're going to designate so many units and it's going to be for low income, how does the city control that? What are other municipalities doing?
Usually it's just a dependent. If it's a full control, like it's requiring that a certain percentage be low, controlled, that low to moderate. It would be you don't get approved. You don't get your application approved. You don't get your proposal approved because you're not meeting this code.
For the life of that building. I mean, it's easy to approve something on a basis. I'm saying to monitor it, to control that for the entirety of the life of that building.
No. So again, programs like this, typically they can be handled in different ways. There may be an underlying property exemption or property tax exemption that is then monitored by a not-for-profit or housing authority, someone that the city would contract with, or you would have staff that would verify the incomes or that the rental units once per year. There are things that housing authorities do like this. There's a variety of different mechanisms. Many communities do it differently. And so you would have to, that would be part of the policy conversation, just like with multifamily tax exemption. I was with the City of Liberty Lake. We were looking at multifamily tax exemption. We were actually looking at contracting with a not-for-profit to try that already does this in their own operations to try and validate or verify. It's not a difficult thing to do. You just have to create a mechanism to be able to do it.
I'll give my 2 cents. I personally have issues with the whole H 2.9. I don't know what the will of this commission is, but if we keep it, I would suggest changing the word require to something like encourage or request. We can think about that over the next month.
Yeah, it would definitely need some adjustment.
Yeah.
But
Are there any other more questions, clarification for housing or land use? If not, we can move on to climate element.
Thanks, everyone.
So the work on the climate element has been very specifically in response to your past concerns. And the wording specifically. And so I was working with the county to, after the last commission meeting where we wanted to change some of the wording from required to strive to, or, soften the language a little bit. So it's not to make requirements and suggestions. And so the county went through and revised a certain amount of them, but I also noticed that they didn't follow through all the way. So I went through line item by line item and I told them, change this to this, to this, to this. And so they didn't have to guess. And so this is a reflection of that work, hoping to soften a lot of that language, like coordinate with Spokane Regional, or encourage partnership with Eastern, or work towards a lot of that instead of, the demanding terms. Rick, we were talking about that quite a bit last time. So that's the bulk of it, of the changes on that, or just those kind of wording. And the only other item that I would ask to consider we wanted to remove 2 sections. Curtis actually brought it to our attention that there's on page 12, one of them, the very top portion, it says, in addition to the policies, also see Cheney's natural assets and sustainability element. We don't have that element. It's absorbed this time in the other work that's being done. So we could propose to remove that whole upper section that's between the blue bars. And then there's another one on page 9, exact same thing between the 2 bars. The natural assets and sustainability element isn't an element. It's that all those considerations are within the other goals and policies. So the climate element, if you like it the way it is, we could put a bow on it and say, this is good and ready to go. This is totally up to you, of course. Or we can, if you want to entertain more work, tell me what we can do and we will revise it as appropriate.
Terry, I think just my opinion, the rest of the commission, I think we beat this one to death. By making those changes that, I think we asked for when this first came out, taking out the requirements.
Yeah.
Putting in, consider, strive, work with, all of those things. So I didn't see anything in this one that, gave me any real heartburn, because I think we've done that, as everybody probably remembers. This gave me, just coming out, gave me a lot of heartburn.
Yeah, me too.
And it's, solely because, how do we gauge, all of what needs to be required, and do they take into consideration the fact that we have 60 trains coming through Cheney every day that are spitting out a whole lot of, diesel fumes, that we really can't control.
Yeah.
You know, are there other things we can hopefully try to control? Sure.
Yeah.
And that was, you know, my biggest concern when this came out, is, you know, when are they gonna do the testing? When that, you know, when those two trains come through back to back, one on one side of the tracks and one on the other side of the tracks. Because naturally, I don't want to set the city up for failure in this element, but I'm satisfied with the climate element. As we seem to have discussed that pretty significantly, but that's my opinion.
There was a lot of work to try. I was very specific with the county. If it's required, we will say it's required. If it's not required, we all agree it's a good idea. Let's just keep it that way and we will work towards it. It's a great idea. So, but we don't want it to be required if it's not. So, I mean, if you choose to accept this with the caveat that we remove those two sections, we can move forward with this one, correct? But that's totally up to you. No pressure.
But I think even if we say, yeah, go ahead and move on, it's not like we're not gonna have the ability to look at it as a full package.
It will come back at the end with the full comprehensive plan. This is just one piece.
What I mean is if there is something that you see later, then we can still definitely do a tweak,
Yeah.
right? But I agree, I think we got her pretty good.
Okay, other comments? Thoughts? Well, for the sake of process, I prefer to go up to 4 and 5, deal with those first, continuum, and then we'll get back to climate, and then probably take a vote on that. Does that sound good? Right. So for public hearing number 4, 2026-04, I would entertain a motion to continue this public hearing with public comment until next month.
So moved.
There,
Seconded.
have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the action item? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Motion passes. Number 5, public hearing 2026-05, land use element draft presentation. I'm looking for a motion to continue this until next month with public comment.
Move.
Seconded.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the topic? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any no's? Right, motion passes. Okay, number 6, public hearing 2026-06, climate element and vulnerability assessment presentation. Sounds like we're ready to move on this topic. So if there's a motion to, I'm sorry, we'll take public comment first. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak on public hearing 2026-06, either in the audience or online, either come to the podium or raise your hand on Zoom. Second call. Can you tell us who it is? I can't.
Woodsworth.
Woodsworth, if you want to unmute, you'll have 3 minutes to address the commission. If not, we'll go to second call for this public hearing item. And third and final call. All right, public comment is now closed. Oh. All right, okay, Jamie.
I'm sorry.
You have 3 minutes. Please go ahead.
I don't get on Zoom much. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear something.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So
Does the climate change stuff just replicate what came from Spokane County? For their
Spokane County.
For their
No, go-
comprehensive plan?
I'm not sure if
I
I
mean,
understand.
I'm just wondering where some of the numbers come from.
Can you be more specific as to what numbers you're referring to? There's a lot of numbers in these documents.
Okay. I don't actually have the document up right now. I was looking at some of the other documents, so I apologize for that.
So we did contract with Spokane County for this element because we're within Spokane County, so it seemed logical to do that anyway. They're already doing the work. And we have strived to tweak it to fit Cheney the best of our abilities. So
So what kind of independent research did you do for Cheney specifically? That's the kind of stuff I was looking for.
I came into this midstream. I'm not aware myself unless this other staff has input. Yeah, we contracted with them, so yeah, to do it.
Jamie, I'm gonna suggest maybe after the meeting, you reach out to the city staff and maybe get copies of this particular chapter. But if there's anything else you'd like to address to the climate element, you can do that now as well.
So what I'm hearing you say, Terry and Sue, is that we didn't do any independent research. We contracted with Spokane County and we're relying upon their research. Is that correct?
I believe so.
So that's what we should be telling Jamie.
Yeah.
Is that we didn't do any independent research. We contracted that out to people that have more expertise than we have in-house, which is normal for cities our size, because we can't bring on somebody just to do, the research project because it's not cost effective.
Exactly. And we're within Spokane County. So.
Fair enough.
All right, thank you, Jamie. Third and final call for public comment regarding this public hearing. All right, we'll close the public comment. I'll look for my commissioners for a motion to pass 2026-06.
Motion to pass 2026-06
Second.
with the expected revision that we'll remove those two items on pages 12 and 9.
Second.
All right, motion and a second on public hearing 2026-06. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any nays? Motion passes.
Thank you.
You, Terry. I'll move on to agenda item number 7, commissioner reports. Are there any commissioner reports?
I'm going to take this opportunity to say, when we have this much material, you need to get it to us sooner, because it's very difficult to get through it all. It was difficult for me to get through it all because of everything that was going on this weekend. That took a lot of my time here locally to have that opportunity. I had family in town. And so if we're going to have this much material, can I please request that we get it a minimum of a week in advance of our hearing, so that we have the opportunity to go through it, digest it, to suggest changes that we have, that we may have. So I'm not blaming the staff because I don't know where your workload is and I'm not doing anything, but I don't like looking like I don't know what I'm talking about because I haven't had the opportunity to go through the materials to the extent that I would like. And I know some of these are repeats, but as I get older, I don't remember exactly what I read, before. So I end up having to go back through that. So that's a request on my part, just so that I can do my due diligence and can do what the council and the mayor has, asked us to do as a planning commission. So please keep that in mind when we're putting these things on. And I know time constraints because we got to act within certain things. I know that comes into play, but please keep that in mind when we're getting materials. And if those materials are coming from our consultants, then you need to make sure that they're getting the materials to you sufficient time for you to be able to get them to us. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. So I guess spinning off that, I do have a question, just in regards to any type of written comments. I want to make sure that if we're providing comments in writing and changes are being made, that that's still being done in a transparent, open way, so that it's, I mean, effectively, it's nice if we're having our discussion and we're saying, hey, here's the language that we'd like changed here, here, and here, so the public is aware where that's coming from. And I'm just a little bit unsure. I mean, that I've struggled a little bit through this process, just trying to know exactly how I can do it and not run afoul of any of that and still have it be part of a conversation amongst all the commissioners, rather than, maybe I do send it, hey, here's some edits, you make the edits, it comes back. They're maybe looking at it a little more with fresh eyes, but not realizing like, oh, hey, that changed and I don't agree with that, right? Because it's certainly not one. So any thoughts to tell me how we're supposed to go about this?
Well, it seems to me it would be wise as we move forward with any suggestions to the elements is that maybe we can have a section that would be highlighted that this is a proposed revision and this is how it was stated. And maybe there was a couple of different, suggestions, but you can talk about that as a commission and decide which way you want to go. If that would be something that could be done.
We can easily do it in a red line format and add a comment as to which of the commissioners made the suggestion. I don't think you can send out a red line to everybody because I think that constitutes a serial meeting. So you're going to want to make your red lines and send them to Terry. He can send them to us and we can then include them again in a red line format with the commissioner's name associated with the revisions that are being proposed. Does that work?
That would be great. Please keep in mind, commissioners, we have to abide by state law, so we can't be getting together and talking about these things off the record. Even though you may know, or see the person, that needs to be done in a public meeting so that the public has the ability to be able to understand what the revision is. So just keep that in mind, that we've got requirements that we have to abide by to not get sued. I don't want our tax dollars to pay for attorneys. And I've said that a lot of times while I've been on this commission. Even though I'm an attorney, I don't want to pay attorneys outside of our city attorney, to defend us because we're not following the laws appropriately. So keep that in mind to not have those conversations outside of a public meeting.
Any other commissioner reports?
Just maybe I'll quick one. So, and it's interesting as we just passed our climate element, but I actually did attend the public. Referred to as a hearing so much. They were just getting public feedback on the wildfire hazard and risk mapping that's occurring for the entire state, which will ultimately be what is the trigger point for the adoption of wildland urban-based codes within communities and in that mapping. And basically, it was interesting because it took in a lot of different data in terms of where large fires have actually occurred within the state. They had meteorologists involved in terms of understanding the actual climate in those different areas. It took into account the capabilities of fire service response in those areas. And I'm really glad that in the climate element that we took that pause to recognize that, you know, we shouldn't have something that's too hard-handed in there, because the draft map that they have released is actually, Cheney's not in a high hazard risk, which is interesting because we know about what happened in recent fires. They go, well, and anyone can walk outside and go like, hey, it's hot out there, you know, it can burn. But also, if you pause and think about it in our lifespan, so those who have lived here forever, it's like, well, yeah, there has been a fire, but also not every single house here has burned down in my lifetime. So when you really kind of take a step back and think what's the real risk, and you know, a big part of that being the fire response, that yeah, it was eye-opening. And so I thought that was worth kind of sharing anyways, as it was, yeah, it made sense that we approached the way we did. So
Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll take this time to have two requests, maybe under staff reports next. Can we get a quick timeline of the comp plan going forward, as in what this commission will be doing, from Terry or whomever, just so we have more of an idea of what we can expect. And then I think moving forward, I think it'd be helpful if maybe under staff reports, we could do a some sub item of basically what we can expect at our next meeting going forward. So that can just always be on the agenda, so that we can have an idea of what we can expect to be talking about or discussing the following month. But those are my two suggestions. If we want to give a quick timeline of what we can expect going forward from this point on with the comp plan process.
Just by chance.
Do you guys know like back in
So our contract ends June 30th. We actually will on Thursday be sending to Terry the last 4 chapters. Based upon the comments that I heard tonight, Curtis and I will be making some red lines and just adding to the chapters that we talked about tonight, and adding a little note as to the fact that per conversation at the Planning Commission. So we'll be able to have that as well. We won't be able to have your comments in, but if you can get them to Terry within a week, we will turn them around within a week, so that you can have the chapters that we talked about tonight, housing and land use, also for your meeting. This June meeting will be our last meeting, and we will be handing over the draft documents to the city at that point and providing them with all the deliverables under our contract.
What 4 chapters are coming next month?
So we've got economic development, parks, utilities and public facilities, and so transportation, capital facilities, parks and recreation, economic development, and utilities at 5 chapters, excuse me.
And will those be, are we expected that would be a work session or a public hearing?
what we were hoping to do with
going forward is to get through 2 chapters each time, and have them look it over, kind of like right now, and then with the following month, you would bring back the edits that you saw in that chapter. So like next month, we'll be meeting and you would see the edits in the land use and housing. And we'd go over those 2 chapters and then also present you the next 2 chapters for you to start reading through. And so each meeting, we're hoping to go through edits of the previous 2 and introduce the next 2 for you to get going, because
To approve.
we'll want to have them all approved by the November meeting so we can have enough time to actually get it all actually set up in. We do need to have it by December.
Yeah, time will get away from us really quickly. So as an update to the commission, at the request of the mayor, we've changed gears and we'll take all the great work that Nexus has taken on, and we have an on-call planning service that we will turn it over with them, and they will take it with us and we will run again. So we're going to kind of adjust, pivot, turn, and hit it hard, but we'll keep you updated.
Is our next meeting June 8th? I will not be here. I will be at judicial conference over on the west side.
Okay.
Just keep that in mind. But if you get it to me in advance, I'm more than happy to give my input.
Missed that meeting as well.
You may or may not get certainty if my wife was in labor.
Do we want to reschedule next month?
I don't think I would prefer that we don't reschedule for the sake of keeping on task. And then hopefully we still have. If for some reason.
One person in and of themselves, not all that important. As long as we get the other 2 to show up, we'll be
Well,
fine.
Shane, take your laptop to to the labor room.
Oh, yeah. I'll keep the mic off.
Watch out for divorce papers though, too. So.
And it's always possible that I can appear by Zoom. I just don't know
Understandable.
what the schedule is yet. And we'll probably know for another week or 2.
So just worst case scenario, we don't have a majority next month. Would we want to reschedule an immediate meeting?
I personally would suggest. So one missed meeting would mean pretty much that you guys are gonna end up having to double your reading and double your 4 chapters. I don't wanna push that.
Well, let's just keep that in the back of our minds then. We may have to reschedule next month. Maybe a week out, we can send an email and get a poll, get confirmed commitments to attending. I'll be here.
I see no reason why.
Okay. 2 definites.
Yeah, I know this was a heavy lift this time, but we're trying to spread it out the best we can. So it's time. Yeah.
Okay. Any staff reports?
I don't have anything additional. Anybody?
I guess maybe you guys might not know, but the city is having issues with our drive.
Anything else for good of the order? If not, we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Oh, really? Yeah, my son. I love I like this.
Yeah.
It might be you and me holding down the fort.